Commandment 10, Part 4, still important. When we look into this question of this coveting commandment is still important or not, we are needing to be looking into the New Testament verses for the answer of if it is or isn't. Romans chapter 13, verse 9. For this, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not covet, and if there be any other commandment, it is summed up in this word, namely, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. This verse is able to give a bunch of different examples of different commandments, all of which are part of these 10 commandments that we have slowly been going through this year and been studying their exact meanings. Because of this, all the other commandments that are mentioned in this list are all things that we are needing to be doing. This 10 commandment here is still something that is important. In 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 10, for the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith, and they have pierced themselves through with many sorrows. When looking into this verse, it is something that is specifically talking about the love of money. If we briefly skip forward a little bit, we see that it is something that is coveting, or how different translations put it as craving it. The phrasing behind this verse of love, instead of just saying that it is something that is desired, it implies an excessive or insatiable desire for wealth. This love of money is something that can lead to idolatry, as it can replace God as the primary focus in one's life. The desire to have wealth and covet after it is something that was described as the root of all evil. By doing so, it suggests that this love of money is foundational in causing other forms of evil. However, it is not the sole cause of every evil. Historically, this wealth of evil over everything else has often led to corruption, exploitation, injustices, and many more. This kind of theology aligns with the idea that sin often stems from misplacing one's priorities and desires. Even in this verse, it talks about this coveting things like money is so bad that it causes some to wander away from the faith. The imagery that this verse here uses of wandering suggests a gradual process, meaning that it could have been going by unnoticed until one is too far from the real intended path. Faith is something that is central to the believer's spiritual life, and by wandering from it, it can lead to spiritual peril. Luke chapter 12, verse 15. And he said to them, watch and keep yourselves from covetousness, for a man's life is not the abundance of things which he possesses. In this verse, in the phrasing that is being used here by the word them, and some of the context from the surrounding verses, we can see that Jesus is addressing both his disciples and the crowd that was around him. By this alone, we are able to gather the message that can be learned here is something that is universal and important for everyone that is gathered there. The specific word that Jesus uses here in this parable of needing to watch, or how other verses put it as watch out, stresses the importance of this message as being told and addressed. Coveting or greed is the topic at hand that Jesus was giving this warning about. It is something that we are need to keep a sense of alertness and watchfulness over. This topic that we have been mentioning of coveting is one that is often linked with idolatry and a departure from God. All this is because of how consuming this form of greed could be if left unchecked. However, when looking at this instance, other translations put this warning as far as saying that we need to guard yourselves against every form of greed. The phrase being used is able to show that greed is something that can be manifested in a variety of different ways, not just strictly through wealth. By the end of this verse, it shows that the purpose behind someone's life is not just the amount of possessions that they might end up with when they die. Jesus was able to emphasize many times throughout his teachings that through this life, we need to be focused on the things that are spiritual rather than the things that are physical and material. This teaching is something that went against the popular trend of the world, that the more possessions and wealth that someone had meant the better they were. All of which is the opposite mentality whenever it comes to the righteous and spiritual side of things, which we will get into a little bit more when we look at this next topic of part 5, what we are needing to be doing instead.